use my round, the number 10 sable on this at this point. Water container is what I did was I cut the bottom off a pop bottle, and that's my water container, and that fits on top of the big water bottle that's carrier. This is from a bicycle, and when this is empty, it fits right tight on the top of this bottle, and I figured it would last about a year, but I've had this for 5 or 6 years, and if I damage it or anything, I just get another pop bottle and cut the bottom off, and it fits right in the little table I have here. These are cheap paper towels, and some people use the fluffier ones, but the fluffy ones, it's hard to lift out little areas of color if you want to. But these are cheap paper towels, and they work better for me. You know, when I paint watercolors, I don't do the traditional deal. I don't put the light values in first. I start with my darks. I go from dark to light, like an oil painter would do. That's the standard practice that I have, and is to paint the focal point and the center of interest first, and then paint everything else to support that. And so I go dark to light, and I pick out a warm color and a cool color to start with. So I'm gonna go with probably with this earthen green to start with, and probably the good old French ultramarine blue. I like to push the brush on the paint. I like to push it on the paper and make it do things for me. This is a little bit wetter than I'd like to have it, but it's going to have to do. Just going to scrub this in over that area. And this one here too. That's better. That's better. Get some nice meat down there in that color. Okay, that's earthen green. Now I'm going to bring in some olive green here in the bushes right by that building, right by the cabin. A little bit of burnt sienna down here on the end of that little spit of land sticking out there. And on down this way too. I just follow that right down here with a little bit of warm color. And also, while I have it in the brush, I'll lay some over here in the background on that distant shoreline. It's so quiet out here. The geese even stopped yelling. Now, while I'm out of here doing that, I should probably get that cabin. I'm going to use some copper kettle in here. And this is the only use I have for the palette, is just to test the color to see what kind of a mixture I have in the brush before I go to the paper. I'll tone that down a little bit later, so it's not quite so strong. I'm going to put a green roof on that building instead of the brown roof that's on it. This is that mint julep. I'll put some shadow over that eventually to knock that red down so it's not so bright. And I'm going to go in here with a little bit more olive green. Again, pushing that brush, making the brush do the work. Get some dry brush effects out of that. And more of a solid green down here in the shadow area. And I'll go over that with a blue wash. Now these bushes have a little bit of a magenta cast to them. And I'll repeat a little bit of that back in these trees here also. Just a little bit of that. That's passionate purple that I'm using here. Now I can get back up here with these background trees. That earthen green again. I want that to be lighter than the tree there, so I'll have to darken this up a little bit more. This one right here. Darken that up a little bit more to make it hold that, bring it forward from that background. You just kind of have to brush this stuff in and not fiddle with it too much. You just don't want them to be all the same height, and you don't want them to be looking like the Three Sisters. And I usually let this get lighter as it goes out to the edge of the paper there. Go in here with just a few highlights in a couple areas. And go back in here on this tree here and darken that up to pull it out from that background. That's a little bit, that area is a little bit damp. It hasn't dried completely because the air is pretty damp this morning. And normally it would be dry already, but so it blends in really nicely that way. I hesitated there because I didn't want this to be too dark, but I wanted it to be a little bit darker than it was to help make that cabin be secluded in those trees and not let it stand out too much. Okay, now let's see, I have a bush down here to put in. Should have done that when I was initially putting these bushes in, but I didn't do it. So now I have to do it. I'm going to go here and hit a little bit more color there. This is going to be too purple here. I'll have to get some let's see, what am I going to put in? Touch of green. So that's not quite so strong. That does it. Now I got to lay in the water. On the lake. And I will use some sky blue in there. Dry brush, I hope. And the green again, the olive green, or the earthen green. And bring that green down here with some reflections. Kind of mimicking the outline of the trees back there. We're getting close, folks. There's nothing like painting on outdoors, I'll tell you. It's just, there's nothing like it. Studio painting will never replace painting outdoors. I've been doing watercolors since 1962, and painting outdoors is still the greatest challenge you can do as far as I'm concerned. Not be locked up in the studio. Okay, I'm going to make this back in here a little bit darker. To bring out that little spit of land there that is sticking out there into the lake. I think I can put a sky in here, and by that time maybe this will be dry enough down here. So again, I'll use a sky blue. And I'm going to start it over here. The sun's coming in this direction, so I want the sky to be warm over here and cool over here. So I'll put the blue in over here first. And they say, why didn't you put the sky in first? Because you don't know how dark to make it because you don't have anything there but white paper. So if you wait until you get to this point, then you know just how much blue you have to have. And see, it's very pale. That's good. I don't want it to be very dark. It's dry enough down here to put that blue wash in too. So I'll do that. Okay, there it is. I should take it in a little bit over these trees, because it's like painting shadows on buildings. You want, if the building is a yellow building, you need to put the yellow down on the whole building and then put the shadow in. Otherwise it looks like the building is painted two different colors. The shadow color and then the yellow color. And I'm going to put a little bit of apricot in this upper left corner here. And this, yeah, it's a little bit damp yet, but not too much. So I'm going to go to the apricot. I just want just a slight amount of that, not very much, just a slight amount. You just have to make sure that your brush is clean when you put this in. And it's really, you hardly even notice that it's there. That's the thing, which is okay. Let me put the shadows in here before we take a break here, okay? I gotta lay the shadows in that foreground. You get some French ultramarine, a thin wash of French ultramarine here. And that should work out fine on top of that grass. I don't want it to look like a golf course. And put some of that shadow up into those bushes too. It's nice to have a little bit of detail in there for appreciation of this situation. And of course, we have to have some birds in the scene. My goodness. Now, I always like to carry the birds up outside the frame. And if the birds are working right, they will lead your eye to the focal point. They're just, I just don't put a bunch of birds sticking around in the sky by themselves. And I think that makes sense. And I could always do a little bit of surface work on the water too. Just help to keep that area really, really flat looking. This is the 005, or this is the 05 pen I'm using, excuse me. And I need to sign it and title it. It's going to be Morning at Kanuga Lake. North Carolina. I'll sign it over here. I usually sign it in the painting. AWS. April 6th, 2013. In doing my journaling, I've put the dates on each page, and it helps me later when I try to figure out what did I do that day, you know. And I've got a record of it right here as a result. So that takes care of that.